Most people believe men die earlier simply because of genetics, as if nature just decided to give women more years.
But that's not the truth. The actual reason is not fate, it's choices.
It's the way men live their lives day after day, pushing themselves, ignoring their health, convincing themselves that they're too strong to break down.
Genetics might load the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. And when you look at how men treat their bodies compared to women, the difference is striking. It's not about luck, it's about repeated patterns: what men eat, how they handle stress, whether they listen to their bodies or dismiss the signals. That's where the real gap comes from. Stress is like an invisible poison that men carry around every single day. They don't always feel it directly, but it's there, driving up cortisol, raising blood pressure, tightening arteries, storing fat deep inside the belly where it does the most damage. Men think stress is just part of being strong, part of being responsible, but in reality it's slowly wearing down their heart, their immune system, and even their brain. Chronic stress doesn't just make you tired, it accelerates aging, it weakens resilience, and it creates the very conditions that shorten life. And the tragedy is that most men don't even recognize how destructive it is until it's too late. The body is always speaking, but most men refuse to listen. That tightness in the chest, that constant fatigue, the brain fog, the digestive issues, these are not random. They're signals, warning signs that something deeper is wrong. But instead of addressing them, men dismiss them, push them aside, or drown them out with caffeine, alcohol, or sheer willpower. They convince themselves it's nothing, that it will pass, because stopping feels like weakness. Yet every ignored signal is the body's way of saying, "I'm breaking down." And the longer those messages are silenced, the closer men push themselves to a point of no return. Men are taught from a young age that strength means sacrifice, working longer hours, carrying heavier burdens, never pausing to rest. They wear exhaustion like a badge of honor, believing that pushing through pain makes them tougher. But this definition of strength is an illusion. The body isn't a machine that can run endlessly without repair. It's a living system that needs recovery, nourishment, and balance. When men constantly put themselves last, when they believe asking for help is weakness, they burn out their health in silence. And what they call sacrifice eventually becomes self-destruction, shaving years off their life without them even realizing it. When the pressure builds, most men don't look for healthy outlets, they look for quick escapes. Late-night junk food, endless cups of coffee, now alcohol, because scrolling in on a WORLD screen just to numb the mind. These habits feel like relief in the moment, but they're really adding fuel to the fire. Every sugary snack spikes insulin, every drink burdens the liver, every sleepless night weakens the heart. What starts as coping slowly becomes a lifestyle, and that lifestyle rewires the body toward disease. The tragedy is that these destructive patterns are often accepted as normal male behavior, when in reality they're quietly carving years off a man's life. One of the most dangerous things happening inside men's bodies is something they rarely see: visceral fat. This isn't the fat you pinch under the skin. This is the fat that wraps around your organs, pressing on your liver, heart, and intestines. It's toxic, it releases inflammatory chemicals, it drives up blood sugar, and it clogs arteries from the inside out. Men accumulate this type of fat more easily than women, especially under stress, and it becomes the breeding ground for heart disease, stroke, and diabetes. The problem is that men often ignore it until a crisis hits, and by then, the damage is already deep. Visceral fat is silent, but it's one of the strongest reasons men's lives are cut short. Most men live with a silent belief that nothing can touch them, that their body is invincible, that illness is something that happens to someone else.
And because of that, they avoid doctors, they skip checkups, they delay medical visits until the pain is unbearable or the symptoms can no longer be ignored. But what they don't realize is that by the time they finally walk into that clinic, the damage is already far advanced. Heart disease doesn't wait until you're ready to acknowledge it. Diabetes doesn't pause until you feel like checking your blood sugar. Cancer doesn't stop growing because you're too busy to get tested. Disease progresses quietly, invisibly, and when men avoid medical attention, they give these conditions years of unchecked growth. Why do men avoid it? It's not simply laziness. It's pride, it's conditioning, it's that cultural voice that whispers, "Be tough, handle it yourself, don't complain." Men are raised to equate strength with silence. They're told that asking for help makes them weak, that seeking medical advice is admitting defeat. So they carry chest pain like it's a minor annoyance. They treat shortness of breath as if it's just being out of shape. They dismiss fatigue as just working too hard. They push through because they think that's what men are supposed to do. But what they're really doing is giving illness a head start, turning reversible problems into irreversible tragedies. Think about this. Most heart attacks are not random. They're years in the making, arteries narrowing, inflammation building, blood pressure rising. But these changes don't scream at you right away, they whisper. They show up as slightly higher blood pressure, as cholesterol levels creeping upward, as a little extra belly fat that doesn't seem like much. And a routine checkup could catch all of it early, yet most men don't go. They convince themselves they're fine until one day they're not. Until one day, the silent disease becomes a heart attack that strikes without warning. The same goes for diabetes. A man might be pre-diabetic for years, blood sugar inching higher, insulin resistance building, the body giving subtle clues, constant thirst, frequent urination, brain fog, low energy after meals. But instead of getting tested, instead of adjusting his diet, he ignores it. Maybe he drinks another coffee, maybe he powers through the fatigue. And while he's pretending everything is normal, his pancreas is burning out, his blood vessels are being damaged, his nerves are slowly deteriorating. By the time he finally goes to the doctor, he's not pre-diabetic anymore. He's full-blown diabetic, and now he's facing medications for life, maybe even complications he can't reverse. Men also underestimate the importance of early detection with cancer. Prostate cancer, colon cancer, testicular cancer, these are diseases where early diagnosis can mean survival, but delayed attention often means the difference between a simple treatment and a life-threatening battle, yet men often wait, ignoring warning signs, sometimes out of fear, sometimes out of embarrassment. They don't want to talk about sensitive symptoms, they don't want to sit through uncomfortable procedures. So they avoid it, and that avoidance costs years of life that could have been saved. What's even more dangerous is that many men normalize their decline. They think, well, of course I'm tired, I'm getting older. Or, of course my back hurts, I've worked hard my whole life. They chalk up memory issues to age, they brush off joint pain as normal wear and tear, they tell themselves erectile dysfunction is just part of being older. But what they call normal aging is often not normal at all. It's warning signs of deeper issues. Erectile dysfunction, for example, is not just a bedroom problem. It's often one of the earliest signs of cardiovascular disease. That's the body saying blood flow is compromised, that arteries are narrowing. But men rarely connect the dots, and instead of seeking help, they suffer in silence while their heart silently deteriorates in the background. And this isn't just about avoiding doctors, it's about avoiding responsibility. Because the truth is, if a man really cared for his family, if he truly wanted to be strong for them, he would take care of his health.
He would recognize that the greatest act of strength is prevention, not denial. Going for a checkup doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. Knowing your blood pressure, your cholesterol, your blood sugar, it gives you power, it gives you the chance to make changes while there's still time. But men often surrender that power by choosing ignorance, and ignorance when it comes to health is deadly. Consider this, women live longer, not just because of biology, but because they are more proactive. They go for regular checkups, they talk about their symptoms, they build support networks where health is discussed openly. They don't see seeking help as weakness, they see it as survival. And that one difference, being proactive instead of reactive, is a massive reason why women outlive men in almost every country in the world. Men are not doomed to die first, they're choosing it by the way they ignore their health. The irony is, men will take better care of their car than their own body. They'll change the oil, check the engine, replace worn parts because they know neglecting those things will cause a breakdown. But when it comes to their own heart, their own arteries, their own liver, they drive themselves into the ground with no maintenance. And unlike a car, you can't just replace your engine when it fails. You get one body, one heart, one brain, and if you let them break down, there's no repair shop that can bring them back to full function. The hesitation to seek medical attention also comes from fear of bad news. Many men would rather not know because knowing means confronting change. Knowing means maybe giving up old habits, maybe taking responsibility for their lifestyle, but avoiding the truth doesn't change the truth. Disease doesn't disappear because you refuse to face it. In fact, avoiding it gives it the perfect environment to thrive. That fear, that delay, is what takes years off men's lives. And let's be clear, prevention is not complicated. It's not about living at the doctor's office. It's about small, regular check-ins, about understanding your numbers, about paying attention when your body speaks. A simple blood test can reveal insulin resistance before diabetes develops. A quick blood pressure reading can show if your arteries are under strain. A routine colon screening can catch cancer before it spreads. These are not complicated, yet men avoid them until their condition is advanced. The truth is, the earlier a problem is caught, the easier it is to fix. Lifestyle changes, nutrition adjustments, stress management. These can reverse so many conditions if applied in time. But when men delay, when they finally seek help only after a crisis, the window for easy reversal is gone. Then it's about managing disease instead of preventing it. Then it's about medications, surgeries, and complications that could have been avoided. Men must understand seeking medical care is not about weakness, it's about survival, it's not about fear, it's about empowerment. It's about knowing the state of your health so you can take control, not waiting until your body forces you into the hospital. The real tragedy is that so many men only realize this after a major event, after the heart attack, after the stroke, after the cancer diagnosis. They look back and wish they had acted sooner, wish they had listened, wish they had cared enough about themselves to take the small steps that could have saved their life. But waiting until regret sets in is too late. The real strength is in prevention, in awareness, in being humble enough to admit that even the strongest body has limits. Men don't need to die first. They don't need to sacrifice years of life to silence, to pride, to avoidance. They can choose differently. They can choose to act now, to listen now, to care now. Because the earlier they act, the longer and stronger they will live. Not just for themselves, but for everyone who depends on them. Most men live their entire lives with emotions locked away, sealed behind a wall of silence. From childhood, they're taught not to cry, not to complain, not to reveal what they feel. They hear phrases like "man up," "be strong," "don't show weakness," And so they grow up believing that emotions are dangerous, that vulnerability is shameful, that silence equals strength. But here's the problem. The human body doesn't erase emotions just because they're hidden. It stores them. Stress, anger, grief, frustration, when these feelings have no outlet, they don't disappear. They accumulate inside the nervous system, raising cortisol, tightening arteries, inflaming tissues, and silently sabotaging health. Women, in contrast, talk about their struggles. They share with friends, family, or support groups. They release tension through conversation, through connection, through emotional expression. And science shows that this process lowers cortisol, reduces inflammation, strengthens immunity, and even protects the heart. Men, on the other hand, hold everything in. They carry it in their shoulders, in their chest, in their stomach, in their blood pressure. And because they never release it, stress becomes a constant companion, a slow but relentless killer. Think about it this way: stress is energy. If it has no path outward, it will turn inward. The body then becomes the container of unresolved emotion, and that container eventually cracks. For men, this often manifests as hypertension, heart disease, anxiety masked by anger, or digestive problems like ulcers and irritable bowel. The link is undeniable. Emotions that are suppressed are transformed into physical illness. And yet, men pride themselves on silence, not realizing that their silence is shortening their lives. Now, why does this happen? Part of it is cultural, part of it is biological, but a huge part is simply conditioning. Men are rewarded for being stoic, for showing no weakness, for appearing unshakable, but what's praised on the outside is punished on the inside. Every time a man swallows his feelings, his body pays the price. Cortisol levels rise, blood sugar climbs, fat storage increases, testosterone drops. Over time, this biochemical storm ages him faster, weakens his resilience, and steals years from his life. This isn't theory, it's measurable. Studies show that men under chronic emotional suppression have higher rates of heart attacks, strokes, and even immune-related diseases. Their bodies are literally attacked from within because the emotional pressure is never released. And the irony is that the very thing men fear, appearing weak, is actually what would make them stronger. Opening up, sharing, connecting, asking for help, these acts don't diminish strength, they amplify it. They lower stress, they increase mental clarity, they improve health outcomes. But here's the tragedy: most men only learn this lesson too late. They spend decades bottling emotions, and by the time their body collapses, by the time the doctor says you've had a heart attack, or you have advanced disease, they look back and realize that silence wasn't strength at all. Silence was a slow suicide. And what makes it worse is that men often cope with that buried stress in destructive ways. Instead of talking, they drink. Instead of opening up, they smoke. Instead of connecting, they isolate. And every one of those coping mechanisms adds another layer of damage, another nail in the coffin of their health. Women naturally build protective social networks. They talk to friends, they share burdens, they cry, they laugh, they let it out. This isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's their way of keeping cortisol down, of protecting their hearts, of balancing their hormones. That's one of the biggest hidden reasons women outlive men, not just biology, but behavior. Expression is medicine, suppression is poison. And men, unfortunately, are overdosing on their own silence. Imagine a man coming home from work, shoulders heavy, mind spinning with stress. Instead of sharing it, he sits down, grabs a drink, turns on the TV, and buries it. Day after day, year after year, he repeats the cycle. The stress doesn't leave. It just buries deeper into his system, calcifying into hardened arteries, into high blood pressure, into metabolic disease. And when he finally collapses from a heart attack, people say, "But he never complained." Exactly. He never complained, and that silence was what killed him.
We must understand, emotions are not optional. They are biological signals just like hunger, thirst, or fatigue. Ignoring them is as dangerous as ignoring chest pain or ignoring high blood sugar. They are warnings, they are messages. And when men refuse to acknowledge them, the body takes the burden, and the body eventually breaks. Here's the truth most men don't want to hear. Vulnerability is strength. Allowing yourself to express, to connect, to admit that you are human, that doesn't weaken you, it preserves you. A man who shares his struggles is not fragile, he's wise. A man who builds support around him doesn't fall apart under stress, he thrives. Longevity doesn't come from pretending to be unbreakable. It comes from managing the pressure that life inevitably brings. The male tendency to bottle emotions also leads to another hidden killer, loneliness. Studies have shown that loneliness is as dangerous as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It increases mortality, it worsens inflammation, it accelerates aging, and men are more likely to suffer from loneliness because they lack deep emotional connections. They might have drinking buddies, co-workers, or surface-level friendships, but few men build relationships where they can truly open up. That isolation eats away at health silently, making the risk of early death even higher. And it's not just about physical health. Emotional suppression takes a toll on the brain too. Depression in men often doesn't look like sadness. It looks like anger, irritability, or withdrawal. Anxiety doesn't look like fear. It looks like restlessness, insomnia, constant tension, and because men rarely talk about it, they don't get help, they don't get support, they don't get relief. The mind and body suffer together, creating a downward spiral that accelerates decline. But here's the hope: this cycle can be broken. Men can learn to release, to open up, to let go of the belief that silence equals power. They can embrace the truth that the strongest men are the ones who take care of their mental and emotional health as much as their physical health. They can talk, they can seek help, they can create networks of support, they can learn from women who for centuries have lived longer because they embraced the healing power of connection. The choice is clear: bottle it up and die younger, or release it and live longer. And the release doesn't always have to mean sitting in therapy or spilling your soul if that feels unnatural at first. It can mean exercise, journaling, deep breathing, building friendships, sharing with one trusted person, engaging in meaningful activities. It can mean replacing destructive coping mechanisms with restorative ones. The point is expression, not repression. Men must understand that real strength is not measured by how much you can carry silently, it's measured by how wisely you can release the load. The body was never designed to hold unlimited stress without consequence. It will always show the bill eventually, in the heart, in the brain, in the immune system. And if men continue to believe that silence is survival, they will keep dying first. But if they redefine strength, if they embrace expression as part of health, they can break the cycle. They can live not just longer lives, but fuller lives. So the actual reason men die first is not only because of stress itself, but because they refuse to let it out. They drown in silence. They suffocate under the weight of unspoken emotions. They pay with years of their life for a belief that never served them. And the most powerful transformation begins when a man finally realizes speaking is strength, connecting is survival, expressing is medicine. That is the truth that saves lives. If you look carefully at one of the most powerful reasons women consistently outlive men, it's not just hormones, and it's not only genetics, it's their support systems. Women build networks, they connect, they talk, they share their burdens instead of carrying them in silence. And what happens when they do this? Their stress hormones drop,
their immune systems strengthen, their hearts are protected, and their bodies stay resilient for decades longer. This isn't just psychology, this is physiology. Connection literally changes chemistry. When a woman picks up the phone to talk to a friend about her problems, she is, in that very moment, lowering cortisol, balancing her nervous system, and reducing the risk of stress-related illness. When women gather in groups, whether it's family, community, or friendships, their oxytocin levels rise. Oxytocin is sometimes called the bonding hormone, but in reality, it's also a healing hormone. It relaxes the cardiovascular system, improves digestion, and lowers inflammation. That is medicine flowing through their body, not from a pill, but from connection itself. Men, on the other hand, often live like lone wolves. They may have surface-level friendships, drinking buddies, or colleagues, but very few have deep emotional connections where they can be vulnerable and real. They might spend hours talking about sports, work, or politics, but they rarely share their deepest fears, struggles, or pain. And because of that, they lose the healing effect of connection. Isolation becomes their silent disease, and it eats away at their health day after day. Loneliness, by itself, is one of the most dangerous conditions a human can face. Studies have shown that chronic loneliness is as harmful as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It increases the risk of heart disease, weakens immunity, accelerates dementia, and shortens lifespan dramatically. And men, because they isolate more, are far more vulnerable to this hidden killer. They live with the appearance of strength on the outside, but the quiet deterioration of health on the inside. Women survive longer in part because they refuse to carry everything alone. They talk about their stress, they cry, they ask for help, they lean on others. And every time they do this, they protect their body from the toxic effects of stress. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. Men, unfortunately, do the opposite. They bottle up, they push people away, they keep everything inside. They call it independence, they call it toughness, but what it really is slow self-destruction. Look at any family gathering, and you'll see the difference. Women are talking, sharing, laughing, engaging. Their nervous systems are being soothed in real time. Men are often sitting quietly, not saying much, keeping everything inside. That difference in social connection is a direct reflection of the difference in lifespan. It's not just social behavior, it's biology in action. And the support systems women build are not accidental, they are intentional. They check in on each other, they nurture friendships, they maintain bonds that last decades. Those bonds are protective shields against the wear and tear of stress. They give women a place to release their emotions instead of carrying them alone. They provide encouragement, accountability, and even motivation to live healthier. Women are more likely to join health programs together, more likely to encourage each other to eat well, exercise, and seek medical help. That's not coincidence, that's culture shaping biology. Now, let's contrast this with men. When a man faces stress, his instinct is often withdrawal. He isolates, he goes silent, he buries himself in work or distractions. Instead of leaning on others, he tries to carry everything alone. And while he's doing that, his stress levels climb, his arteries harden, his heart works overtime, the body pays the price for isolation. The sad reality is that many men only realize the importance of connection when it's too late, after retirement, after illness, after loss. Suddenly, they look around and realize they have no one to talk to, no one to share with, no one to lean on. By that time, their health has already paid for decades of isolation. Meanwhile, women in their 70s, 80s, even 90s are still alive, still active, still supported by networks of friends and family that keep them emotionally and physically strong. This isn't about men versus women, it's about behavior that either destroys you or protects you. Men can learn from women. They can build real connections, they can prioritize friendships, they can create support systems that add years to their life. But they have to change the belief that independence equals strength, because the truth is interdependence, connection, sharing, mutual support. That is what creates resilience. Think about how many men will seek help only when their body completely collapses, but not before. How many men will sit in silence while depression eats away at them, while stress is crushing them, while health is declining? And why? Because they see reaching out as weakness, yet if you look at the science, reaching out is one of the most powerful forms of strength. Oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, all the chemicals that protect your health, are released when you connect with others. The body is literally wired to heal through relationships. To reject that is to reject one of the most powerful health tools you have. Now, picture two different lives. In the first, a man spends his years keeping everything to himself, refusing to ask for help, isolating as he grows older. His stress builds, his health declines, his life shortens. In the second, a man builds deep friendships. He talks about his struggles, he connects with family, he creates a support network. His stress is reduced, his body is protected, and he adds years, sometimes decades, to his life. Same biology, different behavior, completely different outcome. The truth is, no supplement, no drug, no medical treatment can replace the healing power of human connection. You can eat perfectly, exercise daily, take the best vitamins in the world. But if you are isolated, if you are lonely, if you have no one to lean on, your health will still collapse. Because the human body was never designed to thrive alone, we are social beings. Connection is not optional, it's survival. Women naturally embrace this truth, which is why they outlive men. Men deny it, and they pay the price. But it doesn't have to be that way. Men can choose differently. They can build support, they can seek connection, they can redefine strength. And when they do, they don't just extend their years, they improve the quality of every single day they live. So the real question is this: will men continue to choose isolation, pride, and silence, or will they finally recognize that connection is the greatest medicine of all? The answer to that question often determines who lives longer, who thrives, and who leaves this world too soon. Most people think lifespan is something written in stone, that how long you live is determined the day you're born. They believe genetics is destiny, that if their father died young, they will too, that if their family history is filled with disease, they can't escape it. But that's a lie that steals years away from men who never challenge it. The truth is, genetics may load the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. And for men, the biggest reason they die first is not because they have to. It's because of the choices they make every single day. Longevity is not an accident, it's not a gift, it's not luck. It's a decision. Every bite of food you eat, every hour of sleep you lose, every stress you ignore, every emotion you bury, every doctor's visit you skip, these are choices. They accumulate day after day, year after year, until they shape the trajectory of your life. Men often think small choices don't matter, but small choices compound. A soda here, a late night there, a skipped workout, a stress ignored. It doesn't seem like much at the time. But over decades, these micro decisions either build a fortress of health or a ticking time bomb of disease. When men say, "This is just how it is for me," they are giving away the power to change, but evidence is clear. Lifestyle and daily habits account for the majority of chronic disease risk. Heart disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, hypertension, fatty liver, these are not inevitable. They are lifestyle-driven, and they can be prevented, slowed, or even reversed. That means the length and quality of your life are not simply handed to you. They're negotiated daily through your actions. Look at the habits that shorten life. Processed foods filled with sugar and refined carbs, long nights of poor sleep, relentless stress without recovery, sitting all day with little movement. Alcohol as a coping mechanism, nicotine as a crutch, isolation as a lifestyle, these are the killers, not some pre-written genetic curse. And the tragedy is that most men engage in these habits not out of ignorance, but out of neglect. They know it's not good for them, but they believe they have time. They believe they can get away with it, until one day time runs out, and then there's the mindset. Men define strength as sacrifice, as running themselves into the ground for others, as ignoring their own needs. They don't realize that longevity is not about how much you can push your body, but how well you can preserve it. Real strength is not burning out faster, it's lasting longer. It's staying vital, staying capable, staying alive for the people who need you most. And that only happens when you recognize longevity as a choice, not fate. Now think about this. Women consistently outlive men not just because of biology, but because of behavior. They build support networks, they seek help, they manage stress differently, they care for themselves as much as they care for others. They don't see self-care as selfish. Men, on the other hand, see self-care as optional, as something to think about only when everything else is done. But by the time everything else is done, their health is gone. Longevity demands a shift in mindset, to see taking care of your body not as an inconvenience, but as an investment. You invest in your family, in your career, in your home, why not in your health? Without health, you can't enjoy any of those things. Without longevity, all your sacrifices become meaningless because you're not there to see the results. That's why the most important gift you can give to the people you love is not money, not possessions, not achievements. It's more years of your life with them. And here's the truth men don't want to face. The biggest reason they die first is because they let themselves. They choose the shortcuts, they ignore the signals, they cling to pride instead of prevention, they call it living free, but it's really dying faster. Freedom is not eating whatever you want until disease traps you in a hospital bed. Freedom is not working yourself to death until your body collapses. Freedom is health, vitality, longevity, the ability to live fully, move freely, think clearly, love deeply for as long as possible. That is the freedom worth fighting for. So what does choosing longevity look like? It looks like saying no to the processed foods that inflame and destroy your body, and yes to real, nutrient-dense foods that fuel and heal you. It looks like respecting sleep, because every night you shortchange your body, you accelerate aging. It looks like moving your body daily, not just to build muscle, but to keep your heart, brain, and metabolism alive. It looks like learning to manage stress, not through alcohol, junk food, or isolation, but through healthy outlets like exercise, meditation, connection, and purpose. It looks like seeking medical checkups not out of fear, but out of strength, because knowledge gives you the power to act early. Longevity is also about redefining masculinity. It's about rejecting the lie that taking care of yourself is weakness. It's about realizing that the strongest men are the ones who choose to live longer, not the ones who burn out earlier. It's about showing the next generation that manhood is not about dying first, but about living well and leaving a legacy of health. And here's what's beautiful: when men make that choice, when they decide to take responsibility for their health, the body responds. The body has an incredible ability to heal if given the chance. Arteries can clear, insulin resistance can reverse, weight can drop, energy can return, even mental health can improve. It doesn't matter how long you've been ignoring it. Once you make the choice, your body starts to fight for you instead of against you. But the opposite is also true. If you continue to ignore, if you continue to deny, if you continue to pretend that fate is against you, then your body will give up. It will shut down, piece by piece, until there's nothing left to fight with. Longevity is not about luck. It's about discipline, it's about awareness, it's about courage. The courage to face the truth and make changes before it's too late. Imagine two men, both the same age, both with similar genetics. One eats without thinking, lives under constant stress, never seeks help, isolates, and burns out. The other chooses wisely. He takes care of his body, he builds strong relationships, he manages stress, he listens to his body's signals. 10, 20, 30 years later, their lives look completely different. One is gone too soon, the other is still alive, vibrant, enjoying his grandchildren, traveling, moving freely, living fully. Same biology, different choices. That's the power of recognizing longevity as a choice, and this is what men need to wake up to. You do not have to die first. You are not doomed by your gender. You are not condemned by your genetics. You can change the story. You can break the pattern. You can live longer, stronger, better. But only if you stop surrendering to the lie that you have no control. The real control is in your hands every single day, in the decisions you make about how you live, how you eat, how you rest, how you connect, how you care for yourself. The truth is, most men don't fear death, they fear regret. They fear looking back and realizing they wasted their years, that they didn't take care of themselves, that they left too soon and missed the moments that mattered most. And the way to avoid that regret is simple. Choose longevity, not tomorrow, not next year, not after a crisis now. Because every day you wait is another day lost. So when we ask why men die first, the answer isn't genetics, it isn't fate, it isn't just biology. The answer is choice. Men die first because they choose not to fight for longevity. They choose to ignore, to neglect, to pretend they're invincible. But the moment a man chooses differently, the moment he decides his health is worth it, his family is worth it, his life is worth it, that's the moment everything changes.